Hello everyone. So today is our lecture 16 and we are going to continue with metallurgy. First class we have introduced this chapter and we could complete the concentration of the ore by hydraulic washing, magnetic separation, then froth flotation process, leaching. After that we have discussed roasting and calcination. So today we are going to discuss the thermodynamic principles of metallurgy. So in thermodynamics class 11 we have studied this expression delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S gives Helmholtz equation. As you all know, delta G represents the change in free energy, gives free energy change, delta H enthalpy change, T is the temperature and delta S entropy change. Now this expression can also be written as delta G is equal to minus delta S into T plus delta H. So the expression comes out to be in the form of Y is equal to mx plus c. So if you plot a graph between delta G and temperature, it will always give a straight line, and that was given by H.J.T. Ellingham, and hence this representation is also known as Ellingham diagram. This diagram, this graph is very useful because on the basis of this graph and representation we come to know that which metal is more reactive or which metal oxide can be reduced by using which another metal. So if you plot a graph between delta G versus T, always you are going to get a straight line pointing towards an upward slope. Why it is so? Let's see an example. Suppose metal plus oxygen and it forms metal oxide. Okay. Now you can see here that if you use here magnesium and here you form magnesium oxide, okay, then delta S, change of entropy. Now you can see here 2 moles of products are there, but they are in which form? Solid state. And so far as entropy is concerned, entropy of gaseous state is maximum than liquid, which in turn is more than solid. So entropy is more or maximum for the gaseous state. So for solid, that is magnesium oxide, entropy is minimum. So if you take out delta as change in entropy, then what is going to happen? That in reactants, one of the species is in gaseous form, so delta S will be negative. And when delta S is negative, then minus delta S will be positive. So when the slope is positive, then the nature of graph will be a straight line pointing towards an upward direction. So if you find out the graph which is given in NCERT book, you can see here. Now suppose here temperature 100 degree, 200, 300 and so on, and here comes out to be delta G. A point reaches where delta G becomes 0. So with increase in delta G and above there will be positive value of delta G. So with increase in temperature, delta G goes on increasing. So when delta G is equal to 0, then the reaction proceeds through equilibrium. As for example, silver and copper. And therefore, their oxides, they do not require even any reducing agent, and rather they decompose on their own. So when minus delta S is positive, that means the slope is positive, then the nature of graph is like this. And you will find out that there is only one exception which comes out to be in downward direction. That is for carbon monoxide. How come? Let's see. Okay. Now in this case you can see delta S will be equal to 2 minus 1 because we do not consider this solid. So when delta S is positive, because the value is 1, so when delta S is positive, then minus delta S will become negative. And when the slope is negative, then what is going to happen? The nature of graph will be like this. Apart from that, you will check it out that if there is a straight line pointing upward direction, that means the slope is positive. When it comes out to be downward direction, that means the slope is negative. And there may be some twisting in the graph. There might be a tiltation over there, and that is because of the change in physical state, as for example zinc oxide. So in this case you will find in the book that there is a red dot over there. From that we can find out that which metal changes its state and so on. So this Ellingham diagram is quite useful to find out that which metal oxide can be reduced by using which one. Apart from that, temperature also plays a vital role. But there are some disadvantages, discrepancies as well, because this is on the assumption that it is based on the properties of equilibrium. It does not explain the kinetic stability. And similar graph can be plotted for sulfides, chlorides and so on, but specially we need to study about the reduction or thermodynamic principles for the metallic oxides. And so far as extraction of iron is concerned, so iron is extracted by using hematite, magnetite, that is its oxide ore, in blast furnace. And there are three temperature zones: lowermost, middle zone and upper zone. And calcium carbonate, it acts as a flux over there which decomposes into calcium carbonate. It decomposes into CaO plus CO2, and this basic one, calcium oxide, if the impurity is acidic, it acts as a basic flux and it forms calcium silicate. So the flux plus impurities and it forms the calcium silicate. And this is in the molten form, so it can easily be separated out. And the iron which is obtained during the extraction process is known as pig iron. It has more carbon content. Then it is cast into a variety of shapes which is known as cast iron. It is hard and brittle and has less percentage of carbon. Apart from that, wrought iron is the purest form of carbon. So carbon has three types: wrought iron, pig iron and cast iron, depending upon the percentages of carbon. Now after these steps, next comes the purification of metals. Okay. So how do we purify these metals finally? So for purification, again some steps are involved, like distillation. And distillation is the process which is used for low boiling metals, as for example zinc and mercury. Then comes liquation, and liquation is used for low melting metals like tin. Then comes electrolytic refining. Okay, electrolytic refining here like copper, aluminium, etc. So during electrolytic refining, what happens? The impure metal is made anode, pure metal is made the cathode, and then the impurities, they settle down as anodic mud. And so far as these anodic muds are concerned, suppose we do the electrolytic refining of copper by using copper sulfate. So anodic mud, the heavier metals are there like selenium, tellurium and polonium. Polonium is radioactive in nature. So these metals, they settle down as anodic mud, and impure metal, they act as anode, pure metals, they act as cathode. Then comes zone refining. And zone refining, this is based on the principle that impurities are more soluble as compared to the metal in the solid state. Next comes the vapor phase refining. Okay. And vapor phase refining, this is based on the principle that the metal should form a volatile component first, and this volatile component should easily be decomposable, as for example Mond's process for the purification of nickel. So in this case nickel, it combines with carbon monoxide and it forms NiCO4, nickel tetracarbonyl, temperature around 330 to 350 Kelvin, and this is the volatile component which is formed over here. And this nickel tetracarbonyl upon heating around 450 Kelvin forms nickel, and carbon monoxide is released out, which can again be recycled and we get pure nickel. So the vapor phase refining says that the metal should combine to form a volatile component first, and this volatile component upon heating decomposes into the pure metal, and the reagent which is separated out can easily be recycled. Then comes Van Arkel method. So like zirconium, titanium, they are purified by using this method. So they also form a volatile component ZrI4, and this upon heating forms. So like this we can purify zirconium. And one more method is, that is chromatography. So the first was distillation, then liquation, then electrolytic refining, then zone refining, Van Arkel, and chromatography. Chromatography you have studied in your lower classes also, for the separation of dyes, inks, paints, etc. Normally for the colored components we use chromatography, and this is based on the principle of adsorption, that different layers are absorbed depending upon the eluents and the solvents which are going to use during the process. And this is of different types like column chromatography, paper chromatography, and so on. So these are the methods for the purification of metals. Now the next is aluminium. So concentration of aluminium, as we have already done, leaching. After leaching, how aluminium or pure aluminium we get? Now aluminium, as you all know, that it is extracted from alumina, bauxite, Al2O3.2H2O. And the moment we get the pure alumina, Al2O3, then it is transferred in an electrolytic tank. Here the anode is made up of graphite and the cathode is steel rod, which acts as cathode. Now alumina is the electrolyte, but alumina, its melting point is very high. So therefore it is mixed with cryolite, Na3Al(F6). Okay, a coordination compound, a complex compound. So what is the role of cryolite? It helps to reduce the melting point of alumina. And one more reagent we add, that is calcium fluoride, fluorspar. It increases the electrical conductivity. So two things are very important over here. What is the role of cryolite during the electrometallurgy of aluminium, and what actually fluorspar does? So fluorspar increases the electrical conductivity and cryolite helps to reduce the melting point of alumina, as its melting point is very high. Apart from that, one more very important question is that what is the role of graphite rod? This is the question in exercise. What is the role of graphite rod during electrometallurgy of aluminium? So graphite rod, it acts as an anode. Apart from that, it acts as a reducing agent. How come? So alumina it decomposes to Al3 plus 3O2 minus. At anode, as usual, oxidation takes place. So this oxide ion, it loses electron and oxygen is formed. This oxygen forms O2. So this O2 goes towards anode where it is made up of graphite and it forms carbon monoxide and finally carbon dioxide and escape to the atmosphere. And at cathode, as usual, the reduction occurs and aluminium gains electron and aluminium is discharged at cathode, that is the pure form of aluminium. So what is the role of this graphite rod? First of all, it acts as anode and secondly, it acts as a reducing agent. So whenever the question is asked, don't forget to write this equation. This equation is very important. Okay, so this equation, you write 2 points, that it acts as an anode and secondly it acts as a reducing agent. And the name of the process is, that is also very important, Hall-Héroult process. Okay, electrometallurgy of aluminium, the name of the process. Apart from that, the alloys. My dear students, different type of alloys, especially of iron, aluminium, zinc, copper, and you have to learn their composition. Like brass, it is made up of copper and zinc, bronze, copper and tin, different type of steel, stainless steel, chrome steel, and then all the alloys. Then iron also, it is used for making different type of alloys, aluminium for preservation of or packaging of food articles and so on. So all the type of alloys, their name and composition, prepare well, and whatever topics we have discussed right from the beginning, concentration of the ore, then calcination and roasting, then purification, electrometallurgy, and then thermodynamic principles, then Hall-Héroult process of aluminium, reactions of iron, extraction of iron from the blast furnace, all the 3 zones, all the 3 types of iron, and then the composition of alloys. Prepare well, complete NCERT exercise as well as in-text questions. So we could complete the chapter. Thank you very much.